Well, hello, everybody. Today we have with us Bob Wilson, who is the Executive Director of DCCH, the Diocesan Catholic Children's Home, located in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. So, Bob, thanks for giving me some of your time today.
Thanks so much, Kris. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, you know, your organization has been there on Orphanage Road for a long time. We know the name, but maybe people don't know what is DCCH. So, starting off, fill us in what the organization is all about.
Sure. Actually, we've been on this road since the late 1800s. We started off as an orphanage back in the 1850s. And over the years, we've been tucked away back here and morphed into several different things. Probably what most people know us for is our residential treatment program. We have a program that serves emotionally and behaviorally challenged youngsters ages 6 to 14. We have between anywhere 35 and 40 kids living here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, receiving treatment and getting some support. All of them are in the custody of the state, many of them due to significant abuse and neglect. So a lot of people, because we're on Orphanage Road, still think of us as a traditional orphanage, but we're more of a residential treatment facility. And also since 1999, we've had a therapeutic foster care program where we recruit foster parents. We serve kids from the state who need a temporary place to stay. And we also have an outpatient therapy program as well, open to people in the Northern Kentucky area. So a lot going on back here while we're kind of tucked a little bit further down the road.
And so you deal with the state, you deal with private entities like private families, of course, and the donors, et cetera. How many typically children do you deal with in a given year?
Well, again, it's about, our capacity is 40 children. We typically run between 35 and 39 kids. And the average length of stay is probably about 6 to 9 months is what the state shoots for. Lately, because of the COVID crisis, actually we've kept the kids in residence a little bit longer. Some of them have topped out over a year. But really the push is to get these kids in to the program, have them receive treatment. When the families are involved, get the families squared away and get them back to where they need to be. So I don't know what the actual mathematical calculation of that is, but that's maybe an overview of who we have back here.
So a lot of times if, you know, we don't like to be aware that the kind of abuse and things that happen to children does actually exist and unfortunately exist, are you seeing an impact because of COVID or awareness of it? Or is it, you know, how do you typically become connected to your clients, the kids who come on campus? And is that impacted by COVID?
Well, again, all of our kids are referred through the state, and most of them get involved because of allegations of abuse and neglect, and all of them are in the temporary custody of the state. Interestingly enough, as you may have seen from other sources, with the pandemic situation going on, there actually has been a decrease in the number of reports of abuse and neglect, not necessarily because anything is magically happening and abuse is dissipating, but there are just fewer eyes on these kids that need help. So referrals across the state for out-of-home care, both in our residential program and foster care, have been down during the program or during the pandemic. Again, we don't think it's because of anything positive, unfortunately. We really expect, and the state also expects, maybe a little bit of a wave once schools start reopening on a more regular basis and kids are around teachers and other adults to note on some of the unfortunate things that they might be going through.
So to speak to the point of the foster care side, do you see an increase in the number of people willing to become foster parents? Is there a greater need today than ever, if less of a need, or how does that look like today?
There's always a need. That's our greatest challenge in that program, is finding individuals who are willing to open their hearts and homes up to our kids on a temporary basis, or sometimes actually these arrangements lead to an adoption arrangement. I think recently, about 2 years ago, we hit our 150th or our 100th adoption, and we're about ready to hit number 150. But more to your point, I think the real need right now is for foster parents or parents who are willing to open their homes to some kids with some significant baggage, so to speak. Some of these kids have some aggressive behavior problems. They've been through a lot, things that would make your head spin and your stomach turn, and they've been through multiple placements already. You know, a lot of times we've recruited parents, which is fine, who want to foster or adopt a very young child that you know, doesn't have any issues or major problems. The reality is, our need is, we need people who are willing to take these kind of more acutely challenged kids into their homes, and it's not an easy job. It's not for everybody, and actually lately we've really been thinking about a good target audience, or a pool to go fishing in for, or a lake to go fishing in. You can tell I'm not a fisherman, but a good place to look for these people are parents who are people who have maybe parented already. They've raised their own kids, or are coming toward the end of raising their own kids, have had some experience, still have a few miles left in their tank, and would be willing to leverage their experience and their patience to work with these kids. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because for that program, that is the lifeblood, and it's a very specific ask. Again, we're not looking at a 6-year-old girl with no problems. We're looking at probably a 14 or 15-year-old boy who's been through multiple placements and could actually you know, exhibit some behavioral challenges, and really need somebody who's patient and willing to hang in there with that child.
And if there was ever probably saints walking around, that's the kind of person who does foster care, right? I mean, I can't imagine. We've not done that, of course, but wow, what amazing people they are. Is there a limit? Is there a first minimum level of time that typically you would ask for a family to offer to be a foster care parent? Is it months? Is it a year? What is that minimum time commitment?
Well, there is a rather thorough training program. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, there is a thorough training program. The first step is for them to just give our director of foster care a call, Ron Birch. He started the program back in 1999, has been a foster and adopted parent himself, really knows the ropes. He's a good salesman, but he's not going to sell to somebody who is not an appropriate fit. He does a very good job of explaining the many benefits and the rewards of being a foster parent, but also can give you the you know, the not so good or the challenging portion of it. So that would be the first step. But there is I believe a 10-week training program that the foster parents go through. There's a home study process. So it does take a number of months for everything to kind of fall into place. But again, Ron could provide a lot of information in that regard, and help you through that process every step of the way.
So, Bob, the other thing that everyone oftentimes thinks that this is a diocese organization, that the diocese funds it all. It is not connected to the state or somehow. You effectively you cleared that up by knowing that a lot of the kids are, or all the kids are placed by the state. But there's a relationship with the diocese. Maybe speak to that and how, and clear that up for the community a little bit.
Oh, sure. First of all, we're extremely grateful for the support that the diocese shows us. We are officially under the umbrella of the Diocese of Covington. We are on their property, so we're very grateful for that. They do provide us usually a yearly grant, but to your point, our referrals basically come from the state, and our revenue is generated by the payments that we receive for our residential treatment program and our foster care program. The payment that we get per diem for the kids in our residential program does not cover the actual cost. So we estimate that in a given year, that program runs at approximately a $1 million deficit due to the lack of state funding. And so we have to make that up. The diocese does what it can, but that's where we really rely on the generosity of people and businesses within the community to help us out with things basic things that we need to operate.
That's great. Well, and the community steps up regularly. The diocese has always stepped up to, as you said, the property, the facility. It's also a community partner. I know you allow, and the diocese allows other communities to, or other parts of the community to have festivals and whatnot on the property. So it's a good partnership.
It definitely is a good partnership, and we, again, very grateful for the support that they've shown us throughout the years. We serve all people of all faiths, but we are certainly proud of our Catholic heritage as well.
That's great. Now, Bob, as we wrap up, if there was one thing you wish that the community would know about DCCH that typically is misunderstood or not aware of, what would that be that you'd like to share with anybody watching with us today?
Well, I would go back to something that we touched on a little bit earlier. I think even people in the nearby community still have this image of Oliver Twist kind of going on back here. And it's not. There's multiple services that are going on within our agency. We're serving the most vulnerable of Kentucky's kids right now. Like I said, some of the stories that these kids come in with are unbelievable. A lot of our kids in our residential program have at times come in with all of their belongings in a garbage bag. You hear the stories of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse that these kids have had to deal with. So those are the types of situations that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And that's where we really need, again, because of some of the funding deficits, we really rely on the public and the generosity of individuals within the community to help us out.
In your team there, one last thing as we wrap up, your team has had to deal with this challenging mission, but also dealing with COVID. A key challenge with dealing with COVID that you've had to overcome?
Sure. I just remember when the pandemic hit and when COVID started to really make its way into our daily lives. It was extremely stressful for our staff from top to bottom to try to lock everything down and keep kids as safe, our kids and staff as safe as possible. What's really been challenging even more so is now that we've gotten a little further into it, trying to figure out what we can do to open up safely, to allow our kids to have a more full experience while they're here. I often tell people that the therapy that our kids get when they're here is obviously a very important thing, but the other important aspect of their time here is that they actually get a chance to be a kid. Many of them haven't had that opportunity. And so for instance, we just went through the summer where typically they would have been able to go to Kings Island, to a day camp, that sort of thing. Out of an abundance of caution, we were not able to allow our kids to do that. So and that's still going on even as we speak. We're trying to find events that we can do, activities on grounds that are really offering the residents that kid-like experience and the recreational activities that they really need and deserve. So that is probably the biggest challenge that we've faced. We've been fortunate. If I can find some wood, I'll knock on it. We haven't really had any major outbreaks here among our staff and our kids, but that's largely due to, I think, the vigilance of our frontline staff working with our kids. And I do want to put a shout out to those individuals over in our residential building who have come in here day after day with all of those constraints that I just talked about and have worked with these kids and found ways to be creative, to stay engaged, and to stay very patient and flexible. It's really been, that if there's been a positive that's come from this whole experience, it's seeing our great staff rise to the occasion of sticking with our mission even in the midst of the pandemic.
Well, if there's one thing I learned having a chance to visit the site is that, the residential side with the kids who are also going to school there, the counseling they receive, the trying to make that as normal of a life as possible for those kids and all the services you built around them. The last letter of your DCCH stands for home. And I know that every day you're working to make sure that feels like home and people want to be safe at home, your staff and everybody else. So I see that, and we appreciate all the work you do and the work that your team does to help provide that service here in Northern Kentucky and in Kenton County. We really appreciate it.
Well, Kris, we appreciate the support that you and the county have shown, and like you have with so many other organizations in the Northern Kentucky area. We appreciate that. Also, the fact, I know your wife, Lisa, is very much involved here, and want to give a big thank you, a shout out to her for her support and time and energy that she helps out here. But I also, again, I want to, if I could say one more thing, I do want to thank the community at large. You know, I mentioned how proud and thankful I am for our staff. It really has been amazing. You know, people have not forgotten about us in the community. We've had people dropping masks off, continuing to donate funds, just anything that we ask for, people are there. And even sometimes we don't even have to ask for it, and it shows up on our doorstep. So we are so thankful and appreciative of people in the community who are keeping us in mind during these very difficult times, because quite frankly, they're dealing with the same pandemic, and they've got things going on in their lives. So I think it really speaks to the giving nature of the people in our community, in the Northern Kentucky community and beyond.
Can't agree with you more, sir. Well, thanks for the time today, Bob, and wish you the best.
Thank you so much, Kris. You have a great day.